Hi guys, this is Wise Dragon Comics. I'm coming at you guys with another video. This video is going to be about one conceptual idea that I had. I call it panel theory. At first I called it scene theory, but it actually doesn't refer really to a scene per se, but more about panel flow. So as you guys have been told in other videos, whether you've seen one of mine or seen others, panel flow talks about how a panel should flow as far as manga goes, and I'm going to explain something about more of the panels in particular, and that has to do with how each panel itself should flow. So I call it panel theory. I made like some notes about how to guide myself through the video. So panel theory is my idea about how you should make panels so that they flow in a particular way to create the concept of panel theory altogether. So I'm going to use a piece of like laminated plastic and a dry erase marker to kind of show examples of what I mean. I'm going to go through multiple examples. The first set of examples are this is a page of my own manga that I've drawn. It was it was made as a almost completed, but I put it into Clip Studio Paint and finished up touches like adding actual text in this area and cleaned up some things. So this is more like a unfinished ink page, but more like unfinished as in uncleaned, but I can still use it to show what I actually mean about my panel theory concept. Oh, just so you know, this page actually goes from left to right. Originally, when I was starting to draw manga, since I'm American and we read left to right, I was drawing left to right. But more recently, I've actually adopted drawing my panels from right to left. But in this case, I'm going to show you what I mean because my panel theory works either way. So how we're going to start is my concept begins with there's more like a low active area and a more active area. And how it works is you want your flow to kind of cross through the less active area, but the more active area is actually more or less a ring around the less active area. So how this will work is panel theory, because this page is drawn from left to right, it will go from and then go down and then go downward. So it will go start here, here, go around and go straight through. So my panel theory concept refers to how each panel should go to help you go through panel flow. So the inactive area that well, not inactive, but low active area would be something of like a circle within the close to the middle of the panel, and the more active area is a ring around it. So as far as the low active area, you don't want to put a lot of things in the lower active area, because what you want to do is you want to focus on the more active area as for your starting point. So at any point you flow through it and come out on any side here. So depending on what you put, like let's say you started over in here, you should always try to start on the side that you want to begin. Like if this is going a diagonal shape, but you have something here, you usually want the end part to be somewhere over here, so when a person's eyes flows, it will go to the next part. And how this ring would go: less active area, more active area. I'm using a dry erase marker for this. So since we ended up over here in the more active area, we put things that the panel would that would call your eyes to pay more attention to. So we have more of the blur, more of the speed lines on the character moving. He's blocking something. and then we have the hit effect here, and then we have the dialogue over here. And notice how I put them in the more active area and didn't put too many things in the less active area, so that will cause the reader's eyes to flow. So this is a focal point, and the words are a focal point. Or you could actually, that would be the proper way to do it. So it'll flow through there and go straight to another focal point, and then it will go to the lower part of the panel. Well, actually, let me explain the first part. So I made this slash part. Let's just show you what it looked like again, just in case. So you have him slashing down, and you can see blur marks here. In the finished page, I actually used some tone so to embody a character, so it actually looked like something was here and he slashed through it and missed. So he went through, and you can see a slash here, so that's something you will focus on. And then you would also focus on the character and the words that he said. Now, if you were to overlay this on it, you can see the focus here is over here, and it passes through to over here. Yeah, that does look a little bit messy, but I think you guys are starting to get the idea. So you have a focal point over here in the more active area. Remember, this is the inactive area that you want things to pass through. So it passes through. Then we have another focal point area, and then we pass through. And we come down to the panel below it. So what we have is, as you guys can see, the panel below, you have what looks like things coming in, projectiles, and the character blocking them. So if we were to do the same thing, the less active area, then we have the more active area around it. So as you can see, more of the more focused effects here. As you can see, the lines here on this effect are bolder than the ones back here. So just so your eyes can actually begin over here, your eyes are dragged over here, and then they're drawn through, because the character's head is also a focal point, and it goes through. So with the whole page being a thing, as you can see from up here, and we had drawn the circle up there, it went through, goes through, and goes through to the end of the page. And remember, like I said, this was part of a one shot that was actually drawn left to right. That's why my panel flow is going towards the left. Now I'll even show you another page where I follow like the same theory, panel theory, to create panel flow. So with this page, following panel theory, the less active ring here, more active ring here. So you can see the dash effect, just lifting that up so you guys can see. And then we overlay. You have the dash effect here. And I wanted to be a bit more stylish, so I added a panel within this panel here. And then I added another panel slightly under it, so you would actually think that this one comes first because it's stacked on top, and then this one, and then for it to flow into here. But if just following regular my panel theory, so there's not really much happening in that center, the less active area, but around it in the more active area, I put the dash effect, dust, or whatever you want to call it, as if the character has been being propelled. In the more active area, we have the other panel, and we have the foot that's going. So passing through, and then we have both of those. And then we also have this over here. While it's slightly out of panel, it'll, since your eyes have been drawn here, you will pass through, you will actually pass and go through here. Now, for that small panel though, let's just take a more detailed look at it. If you look, you'll see his eye, and then you'll also see the exclamation point off center. So if we will put a circle there, you can still see, you know, I made the panel theory even within this small panel. Now, if I wanted to properly make this, I might have made this panel here actually appear somewhere here, so it could have given this panel a little bit more space to breathe. And then using my panel theory over here, putting the circle in the less active area, and then making the ring. One thing about the ring is you don't want to put whatever you're drawing, whatever you want people to focus on the actual edge of the lines, because you don't want to have people do a hard jerk as they're following panel flow to go all the way like that, a sharp glide with their eyes, and then have to come all the way down. You want to make it more to where it doesn't quite touch the edge, so somewhere in here is where you want to stop. So, but like I was saying, with panel theory, my panel theory, we have the focal point here because you left off at this panel, and I'll once again show you what it looked like up under it, and then we once again overlay, and then you can once again see that you would start over here, because this page, like I said, is also left to right, so you would end up starting over here and going through to meet over here where the focal points are to follow through with the panel. Because in this one, this panel, it looks like somebody was coming in with a sword and someone dodged it. Now, if I had been drawing this, if I had been thinking a little bit more about it, I would have actually made this blur a bit more detailed and have more lines, so it will pop more than this one does. Because as you can see, if you look at it enough, these lines up here are actually a bit darker, and they call more attention to your eyes than down here does. So I should have actually made less lines here and more lines on this character doing who's with his speed lines on it, so you will focus more on this rather than him, because more of the focal point should have actually been on here. So this is also me editing, you know, hindsight's 2020 sometimes, me editing my own one shot by looking back at it. But to the main point, with the overlay, you can see how the panel flow, I made it to where you'll flow back. And then even with the panel below it, panel theory, which is to not make a lot of important things in the middle and make them around the middle using the ring. From up here, you would go and see, you can see this sword, and it's going close to the character's eye. It looks like it's about to impact. So your eyes are drawn over here to go through the middle, the less active area, and come over here, a more active area where I put another drawing. So your eyes end up flowing through. Now if you were to look at it, remember it's going left to right, and then we overlay. As you can see, it matches up. Probably should have got a dry erase or a dry eraser instead of just using the marker, but oh well. And then the panel below it is actually just some words. Now this was a bit of a different proceed panel, because in the final version of it, this was actually black with white dialogue on it. So, but even still, the way panel theory should have went is originally I actually in the final page I did make this a little bit closer toward here because I didn't want to center it and put it really deep in the center of the so-called inactive area. Even you can even use this for dramatic dialogue. That's what I'll call it. So in the final version of it, the dialogue, I altered it and made it a little bit here so it could create more of a pass through. So let's just say this is here and this is here. With panel theory, the circle is still here and the active area is still around there. So we still have a flow going through the middle to more of an active area. So even if we also made the panel theory here, as you can see, pass through another focal point, your eyes will end up going over here to another focus point and then passing through. So that's generally how I try to design the actual panel flow for all of my manga pages. I'll even show a couple more stylish pages. So we have this page right here. This page is also part of that one shot. It's also left to right. Now, this one is more of a dual effect one. So how this one will work is this upper panel here. The panel is actually a little weird, so it's not quite a square, but panel theory still applies. If the middle would be the inactive area and the outside of it, you still can draw the ring. This would be the active area. So as you can see, your eyes will begin over here and you can see speed effect lines and they would end up passing through, and then you have all this action here. Because like I said, this was more of a dynamic kind of page. Sometimes I like to do a panel cut through what looks like it should be a one page spread. Panel theory also is down here. So more of the action is here in the active areas, passing through. Going straight through. Now, had this been a one page, let's just imagine that there was no panel line here. If there was no panel line here, what you would do is it will still apply. So we will have the inactive area, and then we will have a huge, well, not inactive, but less active. And then we will have a huge more heavier active area. All this heavy active area passing right through into the less active area. So if this was one page, my panel theory still works. And remember, that page was going left to right. Now I'll even show a this page is a bit bigger, so it's a I actually drew this page on a 11 by 14 rather than other ones that were A4 A4 9 by 12. I'm also going to pull out a different highlighter. So, even with this one, even in the center of all this, we still have my panel theory. Now, I'm not going to be able to draw all the way up it because this sheet of tempered plastic isn't big enough for it. But even still with it, we have in the center of the page and yeah, that's not gonna work. Alright, looks like I'm gonna have to use that dry erase marker that's starting to dry out. But so here it's more of the less active area, and then all around it it would actually extend all the way out around, but I'll just even just highlight the area if you want to, if you were to think about it. Now the actual active area would extend outside of this, but I'm just giving an example based on how far I can draw this, because this is where the edge of this is, because the paper's too big. So as you can see, his face is something that you will focus on. More of the slash effect lines I actually made a little bit off center, so it would appear more here. And then his arm slashing is also more of the lines are actually outside of the away from the center. And this page was also left to right, so panel flow still flows, or in this case it would just flow pass through there. Heavy area passing through the center. I need to grab a marker real quick. Treat this like it's a live video, but it's not. Okay, I was able to grab a couple more markers. Because that one, the one I was originally using, is starting to dry out. Okay, cool. That one, the other black one I have works. See how this red one works? Shows up. Okay, that shows up. I'm going to use the red one for a bit. So those were from left to right. Now, when I started actually making my actual manga that I'm working on, I'm going to grab a random page. This one was also made on bigger paper. So this one actually goes from right to left, and you can still see that I followed panel flow. Up here, you can see how in this square right here, this is like the less active area, and around here you see more of a more heavy active area within the ring. So you have the character here, the word effect, and you're still basically passing through, and then you have all this over here. So there you go with panel theory, following, still properly following. even for here, we still have panel flow. We still have panel theory. Inactive area, more active area. So left leaving off here is about right here, and then going through. And the movement of the eye pulls your eye this way, so it still comes towards the other side through the inactive, through the less active area. Then down here, once again, I did my panel panel split technique, where you get the full effect of a yeah, I did my panel split technique where you see what looks like a panel split up, but also creating a unique moment. If you were to look at this as a whole panel, you will put the less active area here, and then the more active area all around there. Now, as you can see, it still follows it. This being right to left, you have the character up here, then you have hit effects happening, and you still have effects happening. So like I said, it's going through over here. So that's where your eyes will follow. Now, with my technique of splitting up a panel, it's, in a way, I don't know what to call it. I guess you could say maybe it's a dual panel. As well. So even with, if you were like how I split these up, even if you were looking at them as individual panels, it still follows my panel theory. So you have this going here, then you have this still going outside, and then you also have this So even with me splitting it up, doing my dynamic effect of a dual panel, you still have active area flowing through less active to more active splitting through to less active. Well, actually this one goes upwards a bit, but even still with that one, it also passes through down here to that one. And if we were to look at this one, I think you guys probably are already guessing that I really like to use the panel split technique. Starting to realize maybe I'm overusing it considering how much I've been showing it, but let's keep things simple and actually go through some proper panels. So once again, panel theory, avoiding putting things in the middle, putting the focal points of the panel on around the outside of the middle. So we have him getting hit, just to show you the let's do the overlay, well, underlay, then the overlay, him getting hit, and then the mace that hit him. Another panel I'll show you. So he got hit, and then this one is more like a him getting hit, and then this showing like the exact moment after it's coming off of his face. Then we overlay. You can tell where I wanted you to focus at. So then you have this passing through to here. And then immediately in the next panel, the less active area, more active area. Now, as you can see in the more active area, the hit, that happens over here with the sound effect up here happening here and passing through, and you can see his body flying over here. So I still end up following panel flow. Now I'm going to this last part is actually going to show you guys just how much this actually applies for professional things. I'm going to use my iPad here. Now this is chapter 1 of Claymore. It's actually my favorite manga. So let's just go ahead. I'll get it to reload that page. So this is the first chapter, the first page of Claymore. You know what? It'll actually be better if I did it this way, so the page can be smaller so I can cover everything. So even if we look at it here, a professional manga. Now this is also right to left. We have, looking up here on this page, we have inactive area, and then we have the ring for the panel. So we have the word effect, and then we have the monster. So there you go. Pass through an inactive area to a more active area. Same thing with the second panel. If you imagine the ring being slightly off, and then another circle for the more active area. Character's eyes, passing through the inactive area to a more active area. So swoop, swoop again, and then the panels, even for here, you have the dialogue and the word effect passing through the inactive area. Then you have the monster's foot, and then even here you have the character drawing a sword. So inactive area, you can see the sword being drawn. The more active area, so here flowing through, and then you also see the word effects. Now this is a professional manga. I went on the Shonen Jump app. I have a subscription, and I picked up the first page of Claymore, and then we have it again. Panel theory at work. These are professionals doing this. I've never heard anybody really describe it like this, but I'm showing you this is they're even following it. So important things to focus on. They actually split the sound effects to make them into more of the heavier active area. You have the character getting his head cut off with the sword, and then you have the finish of the hero's pose over here. So you still have passed through the inactive area. So following the full line of panel flow, swoop, swoop, back here, swoop, 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 hitting all the focal points. This is a professional manga. First page, flat out. That's how look at panel theory going. Wondering why your stuff doesn't work out? Sometimes when you're actually making a page, you'll be making up actually I'll go over that a little bit later and a little bit in a moment. But you may be making a page, and you may actually need to, depending on if you want your character to say something first before the actual effect happens, then you may need to put the dialogue on the opposite page. Oh, here we have one of the more exceptions to the rule. So this is a page that has more of a drawing to it. This is the second page of Claymore. This has more of a drawing to it, to where it's a scene that you want to see, without it necessarily having so much action to it. It's more like a still shot, like all these people are looking at the dead body. So it's more like a scene that you're looking at. So in this case, my panel theory is something that you don't really necessarily want to follow. So it's more like if you have a still life shot in your manga, you don't have to use panel flow, because putting something in the middle is something that you would technically want to avoid. But if we were being extremely technical, if you notice this square, the part where the heaviest part where the blood is actually not even in the middle. See, the circle is here, but the body is actually not directly in the middle. It's over here. So you would still go through. And you notice how some of these heads have darker hair with all the white, all the things left uncolored, the white part. You can actually use darker parts to guide a person's eye. So you have the heavy blood splatter. Let's take the overlay off. The heavy blood splatter, and then your eyes being drawn to the darker haired person. So there's actually panel flow here. This is one of the reasons why this is my favorite manga. It's just, dude's just masterful. Even the blood spatters, you could say, you're at the top of the page. So you would come through and you end up looking at this guy over here to create panel flow. And then you will come down over here to follow the dialogue and then go through. Even the when you focus on a person, you usually want to look at their face. The face itself is not even in the middle. Whoop, I need to put that in sight. The face itself is not even in the middle. So you still end up having panel flow because you want to look at the person's face. So he made sure when he drew this, it was not in the center, and he put the dialogue over here. So you will read the dialogue, your eyes will catch it, and then as you go to look at a person, you're usually drawn to a person's face. So he made the face outside of the middle, outside of the direct middle, and put it off kilter so you would still go through to look at it. So you still have panel flow. Alright, so let's look at another professional work here. Got Black Clover. How about let's look up the OG Naruto. See if they'll let us if I can look up the first chapter of Naruto. You know what? Let's see if we can flip that over. Oh, wait. Okay, so we're going to look up the first chapter of Naruto. Alright, so first page begins with dialogue. So that's simple, you know, just top to bottom, regular, whatever. That's a 2-page spread. It doesn't count. It's more like illustration, whatever. Now, let's look at this. This is Masashi Kishimoto, creator of Naruto. First page of Naruto. Now, this is more of a drawing, just like I talked about in Claymore when that guy made that illustration of the body being on there. You don't necessarily have to follow panel flow per se. So that page, that panel, if you leave it, it's whatever. But this one down here is where you have some stuff. So right at the beginning, Naruto's doing graffiti on the stone pillars. So what you see is you have the regular lines that are the stone detail for it. But when he did the graffiti, Masashi actually made Kishimoto actually made darker lines here so you'd focus on it. But he didn't make them in the center. See? Made them off so your eyes flow through, and then you can see more dark lines, so you can see more. Made the graffiti in dark lines, so you will end up passing through here. Pass through for panel flow. Using panel theory of leaving the middle of the page with less things happening and putting more of the page on the more things happening on the outside of the middle for the panel, you can pass through. First page of Naruto, you can see panel theory. Let's go to the second page. It begins. Somebody saying his name. Now, he did in fact put the Hokage's face in the middle, but what he did was he put these what he's actually doing off on the side. So when he made this, I'm getting the idea that he wanted you to pay more attention not to the Hokage's reaction, but to the words that were being said and what the Hokage was doing, because they aren't close to the middle, and they're not in the middle, so they're in the more active area. But you're still using panel theory for the panel, passing through to more important things. Now take the overlay off. If you look at the panel, like Lord Hokage, and then he just turns and goes like, yes, what is it? So you're gonna more focus on the dialogue that's spoken. So if you actually wanted these panels to be more about spreading the dialogue, you would actually put the drawing closer to the middle of the whatever the character is doing, to the middle, and put more of the dialogue on the outside. That's one of the reasons why, if you look at some of these pages, you will notice that the dialogue is not in dead center. It's always off to the corners, the edges, something that you want to focus on, but not focus on too much, but it's big enough in each panel so that you actually still follow panel flow, or you follow my panel theory. So once again, if you look at this, look at that. In the middle, nothing, but around it you have dialogue, and then to pass through the middle, then you have the dialogue over there. And even in this small panel here, the face is not quite in the middle, close to the middle, but not quite. He even made sound words up here. That's where the focus point is. He actually wanted you to see the hat tip and then the words to express what's happening in the panel. See? You would your eyes will be drawn to the hat flip, and not necessarily to his face, but him putting that. It's more like the character's gesture. That's what you want to see. He wanted you to focus more on, and what he says. And we put the overlay over it. What's happening? Now, you don't want to necessarily focus on the character's face, but on the action and the dialogue. So panel flow here and going through. And then even in the bottom one, we would put a circle in the middle. Look where all the dialogue is, and you're passing through. Except this one is a little different though. So rather than a cross through, focus is up here, coming through the middle and going back up to where Naruto is. That's one of the reasons why that tone was used, and you notice sound effects over there, because it wanted to bring it back up. Now let's look at the overlay. No focusing in the middle. Even most of the people are not actually in the direct middle. They're a little bit off the center, and they're out here, and they're out here going through. So that's the first couple pages of Naruto. Very widely known professional manga work. Very good. As you can see, even that follows my idea of panel theory for a panel. So using panel theory can help you create panel flow. Now, I did say there was something I was also going to mention. And this is, let's say, let me grab a random piece of paper. Oops. This thing is really tough to pull these pieces of paper out. All right, so using panel theory, let's say you wanted to have a character have a conversation. If you wanted to make the character express something before the words came, what you would do is you would draw the person before you draw the dialogue. Then you would draw the dialogue over here. Like this is like, let's say this isn't even him talking. He's just shrugging his shoulders. You'd even put sound effect shrug, and you would end up going this way. In the same sense, if you wanted something to be spoken and you wanted the character to make a reaction reacting to it, you will put the dialogue first, and then you will put the character next. So the way this is flowing, it looks as if, because this is going, just to let everybody know, this is going right to left. So it looks as if in this one, he's making an action and then somebody's responding with dialogue. But in the next panel, you have dialogue happening and it looks like he's responding to the dialogue. These things are actually important to think about when you're actually making your panels. You don't want for instance, to put him to shake his shrug and then you put some kind of dialogue in here that would have actually required him to actually have done the gesture after the dialogue. These are things that you want to keep in mind when you're creating your panels. Sometimes all it would just require you to do is, you may think you did a panel wrong, but realistically, you might just need to, I don't want to say redraw the whole thing, you might just need to flip. And by flip, I mean put your character second and then your dialogue first. So simply by flipping those, we've changed up the scene. And then you would assume, based on how this looks, that somebody asked him were to ask him something, and he just responds with, "I don't know." Sometimes that will be the simple key to fixing up something if you're writing some dialogue that just doesn't seem to make any sense. Not necessarily that your dialogue didn't make any sense. Maybe your panel theory was just wrong. Well, maybe your panel flow was just the order of what's happening within your panel was wrong. And we're still following panel flow here. So we have less active space here, then we have more active space on the outside. Then there's the pass-through. Dialogue here, and you have the person here passing through the panel. Things happening here, pass through to something more important also happening here. So when you're designing your panels, you don't want to make the thing that's happening that might draw the reader's eyes happening directly in the center. You want to put it outside of the center. Sometimes you can even have something as close as here and it'd be okay. Like for instance, if we were to make that right there and then just leave it, with no dialogue, it could still sit there. You will actually focus on the character. Now, let's say we put the character in the center. What will happen? By putting this guy in the center of the panel, you feel as if there's something missing, as there should be like some type of pass-through. It's like your eyes end up popping on them. In a way, it's more like, okay, there's something, shouldn't there be something here? Now, let's actually just make some dialogue bubbles. And then giving it an effect. Now it actually looks as if it could be a panel. It doesn't look like anything's missing. Even right here, him being off kilter, because he's not in the center, where in the less active area where you don't really want to put stuff, it looks as if, you know, he could sit there standalone. But when it was here in the dead center, something seemed a little off. That's because you would pass through. But if something is in the pass-through and nothing is on the outsides, your eyes technically got stuck when they were going here, and they hit here. They wanted to look for something, expecting something to be here, but they weren't. But when I added the dialogue bubbles, all of a sudden, now it's like your eyes know that they're supposed to be guided from here because you've met the criteria for your eyes to actually follow a path. So it needs to be things on the in the more inactive area on the ring on a certain side to go through the other side. Yeah. Whichever side you want your reader to begin at, you need to have something in this area and have it pass through, and then have something in this area that it can be so it can receive it, so it can arrive there. So you have the beginning part, you get whichever part, whichever side you decide to begin on, whether your comic flows left to right or right to left, you're going to need a beginning and then a second part, an ending, for it to pass through to arrive at. So you need a departure and then you need an arrival, whether you're going from either way. Because as I showed you a manga that a couple pages from a manga that I drew that was left to right still followed panel theory. Then I showed you from right to left, and then I also showed you panel theory there. And then I showed you professional works, and then you also saw the panel theory through there. So that brings us to the end of the video. I've got more ideas for things to make manga practice videos about. That was something that the panel theory was something that kind of popped up into my head more recently, like within the past couple weeks. So I decided to go ahead and make a video about it. So I thought it was kind of it was interesting to me when I thought about it. But that brings us to the end of the video. So if you liked it, you can go ahead and like, subscribe if you want to see some more stuff whenever I post it. And you guys have a good day. Try to live bravely, blazingly, and gracefully. Wise Dragon out.